Welcome to Venice Views. I'm Pam Johnson, Marketing and Communications Officer for the City of Venice, and today we're at the third annual Venice Book Fair and Writers Festival. We're going to be here for the morning talking to people about their writing, about their books, and people who love to read. So every year we have this the first Saturday of April, and if you missed this year's, you'll want to mark that on your calendar for next year. One of the things we do here at the book fair is a drawing for those who would like to pitch their works in progress to an agent or an editor. And here with me today is Camille Klein, and she's one of the people who will be giving advice to new authors. Camille, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
I'm an editorial consultant. I founded the Literary Spa in 2001 to help authors to develop their works for submission to literary agents and to publishers. And so today I'm going to be hearing pitches from people and advising them on how they may submit these works, what they might do to develop them further, and just generally give them advice on the publishing world.
Well, that sounds really exciting for people who are writers. We're going to go and hear who the lucky winners of the drawing are in just a minute. Many of the authors here today have donated books for our raffle. People pay $1 for a raffle ticket, and when they win, they can select whatever book they want, as long as the selection lasts. The really great thing about this raffle is that the proceeds, along with all the proceeds from the event, go to Venice Heritage Inc., which is the fundraising arm for the Venice Museum and Archives expansion and the Lord Heigl House restoration.
Okay, our first person who is going to be pitching to Camille is Don Corrigan. Don Corrigan.
Yeah, here.
Great. Just, we'll put you on the board.
Oh, okay.
Next person who will be pitching to Karen is Margaret Jane Jones. Middle grade books. Margaret Jane Jones. They're all from the Venice High School Literary Society. Is that correct? Okay, and they're here as volunteers, so.
What days are all of these? So, here in Orlando,
I'm here with author Shannon Esposito, and she writes these great books about mystery books but they always have an animal in them, right?
Yes, pet cozy mysteries is the genre.
And this, your newest one, has a golden retriever, my favorite dog.
Yes, golden retriever. I actually have a golden retriever too. She's very old, so this book is dedicated to her.
That's sweet. But I've read a lot of your books, and they're just fun books. They're books about St. Petersburg.
Yes.
And mysteries, and the dog is kind of helps figure out what's going on.
Right, that's true. The main character is actually a pet psychic, so she gets information from the animals that helps her solve the crimes.
And a lot of fun, it sounds like, but it's good for kids and adults.
Oh yeah, it's a cozy mystery, so there's no violence or sex or language. Everybody can read it. So,
thanks, Shannon.
you're welcome. Thank you.
I'm here with Angelina Asante, and we're talking about her book, which is
The Lottery Heiress.
What's that about?
It's the story of a young woman who, through a terrible series of events, inherits $300 million, and she kind of goes off the deep end with it.
And I bet you that's happened with people who actually win the lottery.
One of my favorite shows is How the Lottery Destroyed My Life. I love to watch it on cable because people think that money is going to change everything and make everything great. They don't realize it actually brings much more problems than they ever anticipated.
It also makes those of us who haven't won the lottery feel better about it, right?
Right. That's why I like it.
Okay, well, thanks for being here today, and the book sounds really fun.
It is very funny. Thank you so much.
Well, Venice is known as the Shark's Tooth capital, and with me is Bob Fuqua, who has written a great book here identifying shark's teeth.
Yes, good morning. Good to be here at the Venice Book Festival.
How did you get the idea to write a book about shark's teeth?
Well, I've been interested in shark's teeth ever since I was a little boy. I grew up in Kansas, and in western Kansas we have chalk bluffs, and I found my first fossil shark tooth when I was about that tall in western Kansas.
That's really amazing. I don't think a lot of people know that. I certainly didn't know that.
Yes, and so that spurred a lifelong interest in shark's teeth. And when I had my career in Maryland, my work would send me to the Sarasota area occasionally, and then that plugged me into Venice, and I've been coming here forever, and then we finally moved here after I retired.
Fantastic. So a lot of people will really enjoy this book. I get a lot of calls from people wanting to know how to find shark's teeth. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
Leonard Birdsong has written a book about funny things that happen to police officers or because of what police officers do.
Well, it's about funny criminals, and sometimes they're pretty dumb, and that's why we catch them. So it's funny stories about criminal law, okay?
Well, how did you get started on that subject?
Well, in my younger life, I was a federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., and then later a defense attorney, and now I teach criminal law. And every law student has to take criminal law and to pass the bar. And I used to tell my students, you should read the local section of the newspaper. You'll find out stories about crime. By 2008, students weren't reading newspapers anymore, so I started a blog where I wrote some of these stories, or collected these stories for my students, and they loved it. And after a while, I had so many, I said, well, why not put them in a little book? And so here we are today. And I call the first series Professor Birdsong's Zany But All True Criminal Law Stories.
That's terrific. But you are selling these books here today, but you also sell on Amazon.
On Amazon, you're absolutely right. I think the wave of the future is digital books. So I have this book, which is only, of course, $5. But you can go to Amazon.com and you can buy these for your Kindle. And they're a little cheaper, as a matter of fact.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Okay.
I'm here with Dr. Joe Koob, and he has written all of these remarkable self-help books. This one, I say, where were you 30 years ago when I needed this? How did you get the idea to write this book?
Well, I had started by writing on many other difficult people books, and this particular topic, I had worked with some very strong women coaches, and they inspired me to write this book and did a lot of research.
And are you a psychologist?
Actually, my doctorate is in education, and I have a master's in counseling.
Well, thank you very much for being here with us. This is your second book fair here, I believe, and the second time here at the book fair, right?
Yes. Yep.
And thanks for coming, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Venice author Kim Kuhl is with me, and she's showing this beautiful book that she illustrated and wrote about sea turtles, and we have a lot of sea turtles in Venice. Kim?
We do. We have thousands of sea turtles.
How did you get the idea to do this book?
Actually, the owner of Venice Stationers asked me to do the book because she knows I've written so many articles about sea turtles for the Venice Gondolier, and she said, you ought to write a sea turtle book. And I hadn't painted anything for 20 years, so I thought, well, I wonder if I can paint anything anymore. And it was Christmas Day a couple years ago, and I went into the shed and got out all my acrylic paints, and they were as good as new.
Great.
So I thought, that's a sign. Then I took a piece of typing paper because I was afraid to waste good watercolor or canvas, and I painted this little guy. That's Turbo. And he became the hero of the book.
So Kim has written also about Ghost Stories in Venice, which tells a lot of the history of Venice, and other.
I have 7 ghost books out, most of the cities on the west coast of Florida, and I have a history of Venice.
Yeah, I want to show this. This is a beautiful one by an artist, Ilse Kern, and Kim did the writing in it. It's a beautiful book about the history of Venice.
Ilse would go out every morning and paint a scene in Venice. You know, one day it might be just rooftops and chimneys. Another day it would be the beach, it might be the KMI building or now the summit. And then for 3 years she nagged me. She said, Kim, you have to write a history book to go with my paintings. When I said, I don't have any time. And finally I did, thank goodness. And sadly she did not live to see the publishing of the book, but somehow I know that she knows.
Well, thank you, Kim, and have a great book fair.
Thank you. It's been good so far.
Robert J. is with us, and his book is called?
Well, it's a series of books, and they all have Montooth.
What is Montooth?
Montooth is his character in the front. It's an alligator, and he was born with an exceptionally large tooth, and hence he's called Montooth or One Tooth. And he appears in all the books pretty much as a fable character, but he's also a real alligator.
And how did you get the idea for this book?
Oh, boy. Years and years ago when I was in Germany with my family, they came back to the States a little bit early, and I had 6 weeks left. And in order to continue the tradition of reading books to my 11-year-old daughter at that time, I started writing books to her and mailing them every day. Every night I would send her a chapter. And she kept all my writings over the years and finally talked me into putting them into book form. So
that is one of the best stories I've heard yet. So, and your daughter still has your collection?
Yes, actually she does. In fact, the fable that's in Montooth, these are action adventure kind of crossover teenager adult books. There's always a sort of like a fairy tale little section in there that's a fable. And that fable, she still has the original that was written in green ink. We've copied that, and I think it might even be on the website.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm with local author Michael Smith. And Michael, tell me about your books. You have several different kinds of books here today.
I do. I have a young adult novel here called A Geek's Life. A science fiction book here. It took me 8 years to write called A Pilgrimage of the Phoenix. My latest book, Rider, The Eminence, was published just last month. And probably the main attraction today will probably be Meg Hunter. It's a book I wrote after 2 years of diving here in Venice, and all the shark's teeth and fossils that you see here were found right off the coast of Venice here.
Well, how did you get started writing?
I've been writing since a very young man, but it's only been in the last few years that I've really taken it seriously and really wanted to get some of my thoughts and ideas and stories down on paper.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Tate Valino is here, and he has a book about golf.
Yes, this is a book that I've just put out. It's called The Front Nine. It's a set of 9 different short stories, and they're all very different with different settings. However, there's a common character that weaves back and forth between all of them.
And that is?
His name's Griffin Reed, and he's a psychotic greenskeeper. Again, sometimes you think he's a good guy, and sometimes you think he's a bad guy. So sometimes you're rooting for him, and sometimes you're rooting against him.
Well, that sounds really fascinating. So how are you doing at the book fair today?
Great. It's a beautiful day. We've had some sales already, and we've got a lot of nice folks stopping by. A lot of snowbirds down here still this time of year, not wanting to go back to the cold. So it's a great day for the book festival and a great crowd out here so far.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm with Ann Hardy from Sarasota County Library System, and we love our libraries here in Venice. It's good to have you here at the book fair. Ann, tell us a little bit about what you do and about the Sarasota County Libraries.
Okay. My job is community engagement coordinator for the library system, and we make connections between the library and the community. So this is a wonderful event. We're very excited to be here. You're right, Venice loves their libraries. We hear that continuously from people that come up to the table. They tell us, oh, I love the library. I go every week. I buy from the bookstore, and they talk about bringing their grandkids in, or the kids themselves come in and have wonderful programs. One of our volunteers today here used to be Mother Goose at Venice Library, and it was a very popular program. So we're thrilled to be here, and we're really enjoying Book Fair Day.
Thank you very much, Anne. With me is Clarissa Thompson, and she is famous here for writing historical fiction as well as children's books, and she's also one of our presenters at the book fair. Clarissa, tell me about your latest book.
My latest book is called Surviving Sarasota. It just came out the end of March, and it is about the William and Mary Jane Whitaker family. They were the first settlers in Sarasota. William came in 1842 and set up a homestead down by the Van Wezel today in Sarasota Bay.
And wasn't there something called Whitaker Bay or some area like that, Whitaker something?
There's Whitaker Bayou, which is a little bit north of where their homestead was. And the cemetery is still there today. The cemetery is at 12th Street, just off 41. And our Daughters of the American Revolution chapter is custodian of the cemetery. We just had a burial on Thursday that I was part of, and we give a reception to the family. So the family members, Whitaker family members, are still being buried in the cemetery today.
Oh, that's really interesting. How did you get started writing?
I was teaching writing. I taught middle school, and one year I had 3 gifted classes, and the purpose of the program was the teachers wrote with the students. So I had to start writing as well, and every morning they would say, okay, Mrs. Thomason, what did you write last night, knowing it would take up at least 10 minutes? And so I wrote with the students my first book, Defending Hillsborough. And when I was finished that year, my husband said, I'm going to take an early retirement. What would you say? I said, I'm retiring too. I'm going to write. So I started writing at that point.
Well, that sounds like a lot of writers' dreams, so you got to live the dream.
It's absolutely wonderful, and I'm seeing so many women now that had to do something else to make money and to put the kids through school, and finally finding their own creativity, and it's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
2 of the book fair committee members are here. They are Alex Glanville and Janie Ewell. And Alex, you actually designed this beautiful poster. We've had so many people requesting to purchase it. Tell me about your work in design.
Well, this is simply a continuation of the symbolism we had from our first 2, which is a mermaid. And I just got a little more this year because we had more members and a wider range of authors. I got more creative with the background, with the framing of it and stuff. But it's a continuation of a theme we've been doing since the beginning, and hopefully we'll continue on.
One of the questions people have asked me is if we will be offering this on the website.
Yes, we will. This and a number of other T-shirts, hats, ancillary items with these symbols and images on them will be available on our website, yes.
And when do you think that will be?
What is this, April? Hopefully by the end of May. We're going to work with a web designer and get this straightened out with the Historical Society in terms of the PayPal and how we process the payments. But hopefully by next month we'll be on the road with it.
Thank you. And Janie organized volunteers for us, and these kids are so great. They went around and picked up a lot of the books for people and lugged them to their tents, and they've just been fabulous. Tell me about organizing the volunteers.
We were really lucky to work with Venice High School, and they have a literary council of amazing students who care about literature and reading and writing and communications. And 18 of their students have volunteered 2 hours of their time this Saturday for community service. And some of those are arriving a little bit late because they have senior celebration last night. So we're looking forward to those seniors coming in later this afternoon.
Thanks so much for all that you've done for the book fair.
Thank you.
Don Hay, you've been the chairman of the book fair committee for 3 years now. Tell us a little bit about how it got started and what it's all about.
Well, basically, the gentleman who had the idea for the book fair and writers festival was Steve Albee. who is a long-term resident and supporter of Venice. And we had a formative meeting. He said he had an idea that he wanted to put out, and out of the idea, as we were leaving, he says, "Okay, Don, I want you to chair this." And I think his reasoning behind that is that not so much that I am a literary aficionado, but because I've done quite a few festivals and worked with them and know how to put them together. So, and it's evolved nicely. We had 35 booths last year. We have 45 this year. The presentations for writers, etc., are seem to be very, very popular. So I think the book fair, the Venice Book Fair and Writers Festival, has real traction now.
This seems to be a very creative place. We have a lot of artists, we have a lot of musicians and writers, obviously. So this may be just a little different kind of book fair, but it seems to fit our community.
Well, I agree with you. It started out predominantly as a book fair, but it has actually evolved more into a writer's. Just like we had a drawing for an opportunity for somebody to pitch their idea to an agent, and to our surprise, we had 12 possibilities, and we had 37 people sign up for the drawing. That's a lot of book ideas. So yes, it is becoming more and more a writers' festival.
Are there any sponsors you want to mention?
Well, the primary one is the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. They stepped up last year with a sponsorship. They have continued their sponsorship into this year. And I think, as most people know, the Gulf Coast Community Foundation is a major driver of culture and all things positive in this community. So we truly appreciate them. And, of course, the proceeds from this, although it is primarily a cultural event, the proceeds go to Venice Heritage, Inc., which are the ones that are taking care of Venice's heritage. It's the Lord Heigl House, the Venice Museum, and this type thing.
Thank you, Don. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam.
Well, that's all we have for today. I'm so glad that you were able to come to the book fair with us, but I hope that you'll be here in person next year, and I hope you'll be with us again when we bring you more Venice Views.